in order to give back, you have to feel good about yourself. It's a fine line, isn't it? Life. And it's a fine line about, in order to contribute to others, you have to feel good about yourself. And I drove myself into this state of being, I would almost be that monk and not have any material things. But then I realized that really wasn't for me, because I really couldn't give much. And I enjoy giving. Life is about giving. It's not about receiving. But it's very hard. And I had to say to loved ones and people that I knew, hold on a minute, I've got to grow myself. And they said, well, you're a bit are you becoming selfish? Because I might have wanted to go and buy a new suit or a new T-shirt. And they say, well, we need to buy this. I say, well, if I feel good about myself, then I can get what I want. And if I get what I want, then I'll get you what you want. So it's a reciprocity. It's a thing of backwards and forwards. So I think that was the lesson for me. Be careful with life. Be careful. Don't take it for granted. You've got to be careful
what you wish for. That's one of the things of what I've
absolutely
learned. Because, no doubt there's people watching this podcast right now. It's like, yeah, but I just want to make all this money. I want to do this. I want to do that. You've got to be careful what you wish for, because you don't know what lessons you've got to learn in order for you to now elevate yourself to the next level, right?
Absolutely.
And that could be something, that you're not even expecting. It really can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key thing is this, what I didn't know. I mean, a dear friend of mine who's a high flyer, he's lonely at the top financially, but it doesn't have to be. He said to me, how much is enough? And I said, I don't know. He said, well, if you sold everything today, you could live in the Bahamas for the rest of your life. How much is enough? And I looked at him and I said, I don't know. How much is enough? You see, we continue driving ourselves forward and we lose sight of the end goal. And what is the end goal? You see, when I eat something now, I will not say, that was quite nice. I will say to myself, And if I spend time with someone, I walk out and say, and I have a whoopee every day. And my whoopee is, wow, yeah, that's what made the day worthwhile. And the most important thing is this, that I became complicit, I think, and complacent in realizing that when you're doing well in life, don't take it for granted, because what goes up must come down. We need some highs to give us inspiration, but the lows to keep us humble, but we can crash and burn if we're not careful. So we have to be very careful. Don't start getting how I did. I was completely, I was driving a very expensive car once, quite fast down the road, not breaking the speed limit, but quite fast. And a friend of mine saw me a couple of days after and he said, I saw you whiz past me. He said, why are you going so fast in that car? And I said, I don't know. He said, I said, why, do I need to slow down? He said, yeah, of course. Well, no one will see you unless you're going slow. And I said, that's not why I do what I do. I don't want people to see me. I need to find my own inner self. And getting from A to B, I got lost. Have you ever driven somewhere and thought, which way did I come? So much going on in the mind. So I had to slow my mind down, sort of that concept, and say, I'm going to think about every journey. And I do now. We talk about Stephen Covey, another book that I read, of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But I went on to the 8th habit he wrote as well. But I went on to the concept of trying to understand what is important for me. Everyone else is watching me. See, I believe that what people perceive me to be is completely different from what I see of myself. Even regard to the aesthetics of how I look. I may see myself. It's like a young lady. She's going to meet her boyfriend for the first time, a potential boyfriend. And she's extremely beautiful. Everyone's beautiful within their own right, but this lady is particularly beautiful. And the day before, she gets a great big spot on her face. She's going to spend the whole meeting with this boy and the time before worrying about going to meet him with a spot on her face. Do you think he's worried about the spot?
Probably not. Definitely not.
But she's convinced herself the spot's going to interact with our meeting and so she will transmit energy during that meeting, and she probably won't come over as her true authentic self. So we have to understand that we must work on the detail, but on a positive, not on a negative.
I get it. So do you think, certain people that you might see on Instagram or just around social media or just, all over, their ego, you're talking about, maybe slowing things down for yourself, appreciating it, not letting it go, to your head too much. So can you see that? I mean, one of the things of what, you see a lot around social media is, all this, you've got to have this watch, you've got to have this thing, you've got to have this car, you've got to be going these places, and it can come across like just pretty much ego. And one of my kind of things of what things are areas of where I'm developing. I mean, because we've all been in that same situation. So yeah, look at me,
Sure.
yeah, look what I've got. Yeah, check this out. But one of the realizations of what I'm really kind of coming to see is that, well, that doesn't really make who I am, really. That doesn't really identify the sort of person that I really want to be, just because you might have a nice watch, just because you got a nice car. But what do you think,
No, that's your journey. You've evolved along the road to arrive at where everyone has their own battles. Everyone has their own agenda. Everyone's beautiful within their own right. And it may come across as ego, but they've got the courage to get on and do it and say it. So if it's fueling them to give them what they need, they may not be as far down the journey of the road of their life in order to be where you're at. So if we judge them on that concept, then we're being judgmental. How do we know that they might want the watch and they might be doing that with regard to social media and talking that big stuff and being chauvinistic perhaps, or being a misogynist? But how do we know that they are in a different place to we are? They will come into that and out of that into a place perhaps where you're thinking, or perhaps where I'm thinking. It's just everyone's got their journey. And if we look at everyone as if they're on their journey, we can't judge them because we don't know where they are. How do we know what they've been through with regard to their past? How do we know what trauma they've been through? How do we know that they may not have had a fantastic silver spoon upbringing and they're acting like that and they're heading for a big fall and they're going to suffer some real traumas and pains in their life ahead? So let's give them a little slack and say, well, just okay, let's love you in that way and let's try and support you and guide you from behind. It's like a horse. When a horse wants to jump over a fence, it pulls its head to the left, but the rider has to pull the head to the right, and it pulls its head to the right, and it holds the head straight and jumps over. If we can support people by not being judgmental and not saying just because it's not how we perceive things, we don't know what they're going to endure or potentially or possibly have endured. And if we look at it like that, it puts a whole new light on someone. It makes us love everybody.
Yeah,
everybody.
I agree. Well, look, you've got some great words of wisdom. You really genuinely have. Give us a bit of an idea. In terms of if you want to feel completely fulfilled. Yeah. So, say for example, I mean, you might have experienced this in your life where you might be generating a lot of money. And I've got some friends. In fact, I was talking to somebody earlier about this. That you might make a lot of money, but then you still feel somewhat unfulfilled. Yeah. Give us an idea just from your perspective. How do you really, achieve that ultimate fulfillment in life? How do you find your true purpose? Like, if that exists, how do you find that true purpose and, feel a lot more content within yourself?
Well, life, I believe it is a continuing evolution of change. So what we found fulfilling yesterday is not fulfilling today. When you got your first car, it wasn't perhaps the same car that you have now, but you felt the same about it because you got your driving license and you were actually on the move. Yeah. So at the time, it gave you that feeling. When you got that car, it could have been an old banger. Mine was. And when I walked away from it, I'd look back and I'd look out the window and I'd come in and say, to my parents or who I was with at the time, I can't remember, I'm going out for another drive, and just waste petrol going for it because I wanted to be. Within a week or 2 weeks, I wasn't looking back at the car. I was shutting the door, locking it, going into where I was going. So we have this constant change within us, that what we desire now is not what we'll desire tomorrow. And it's forever changing, and it will continue to change. So we have to live within the moment, and contentment is living in the moment, not living in the past, because that's our memory. The future is our imagination, is savoring the moment on the realization that we are going to change somewhere down the line. And what fulfilled us yesterday or today may not fulfill us tomorrow. We may reintroduce some things back, adapted into the future. Some people love certain things, and they bring those things back around in their life as you evolve. So I wouldn't think there's one particular thing that drives a person as such.